My ex-fiancé ghosted me at the altar. It's been 14 years, and now she regrets it and wants to get back. I said no. Hey everyone, Mark here, 39M. Today I want to share a story that's haunted me for 14 years. It might sound crazy, but it's the absolute truth. Every single word.
14 years ago, Sarah, 38F, and I were a couple. We were the quintessential high school sweethearts who made it through college, the kind of childhood friends to lovers romance everyone dreams about. Sarah was beautiful and gentle, always with a subtle, serene smile. But beneath that pleasant demeanor, there was a quiet resignation about her. She was a people-pleaser to her core, constantly striving to make everyone around her happy. She never wanted to upset anyone or say a clear no, whether it was to her parents, her friends, or even me. Back then, I have to admit, I was pretty controlling. I liked things my way. Most of the big and small decisions in our relationship, from choosing our university, picking a place to live, or even the jobs we shared, were largely dictated by me. Sarah, true to form, just went with the flow, never putting up any resistance. At the time, I foolishly believed this was a sign of our perfect compatibility. Now I understand how much I imposed on her. Everyone saw us as the golden couple. People always said we were made for each other. Everything seemed perfect, a beautiful picture painted for the world to admire. We had planned a cozy, intimate wedding, nothing too flashy, but filled with love and heartfelt vows. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of for a simple, happy future. I truly believed Sarah was my lifelong harbor. But then, in the blink of an eye, everything fell apart. It all started subtly with David's arrival. He was a new colleague at the office, or more accurately, a formidable rival I always had to watch out for. David was handsome, charming, and a smooth talker. He was always jovial, greeting me with a big handshake and a smile. But I knew he had his sights set on the biggest project I had poured my heart and soul into. Basically, he was the kind of guy I wanted to steer clear of, someone I'd cross the street to avoid. Then, out of nowhere, Sarah started acting strangely. She became increasingly busy with her close friend at the company, a woman named Emily. Gradually, their little duo expanded to include David. I found it odd and asked Sarah about it. She explained that Emily needed David's consultation for some kind of team project. At the time, I was preoccupied with wedding preparations and my project goals, so I didn't think much of it. But then their meetings grew more frequent. Sarah started talking about needing space or even feeling overwhelmed by the idea of marriage. She began to turn down our romantic dates, and our hugs became less frequent. At the time, I just thought she was stressed about the upcoming wedding. I was sympathetic, offering more comfort and reassurance, but I didn't realize those were bright red flags I foolishly ignored. In my mind, Sarah was always the gentle, sweet woman I knew, and David appearing alongside her was just an annoying thorn in my side. I never imagined that thorn could cut so deep, festering and rotting my life in the most unexpected way. Then came the fateful day, the day I was supposed to be the happiest man in the world. I stood at the altar, my tie tightened, my heart pounding in my chest. Guests had filled the hall, and the wedding music hummed in the joyful air, filled with everyone's blessings. But Sarah, she didn't show up. First, there were whispers, then curious glances. 10 minutes, 30 minutes. My heart began to constrict. My dad's phone vibrated incessantly. Both he and Sarah's mother started making frantic calls everywhere. No one knew where she was. The entire wedding hall suddenly devolved into chaos. The panicked voices of adults, the curious glances that slowly turned into pity from the guests. I felt like my whole world was crashing down. And then the most horrifying moment of my life arrived. I had to step out myself, facing hundreds of eyes fixed on me. I stood there, my voice trembling and hoarse, saying, "I apologize to all our esteemed guests, but today there will be no wedding." I stood there feeling like the biggest fool on earth, my humiliation laid bare for everyone to see. My mother was sobbing uncontrollably, my dad's face was ashen. My entire family, we were utterly disgraced on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Sarah left no message, no note, no clue whatsoever. She just vanished as suddenly as a ghost. I was utterly plunged into despair. One question kept replaying in my mind, haunting me for years afterward. Why? Why did she do it? I wasn't the only one Sarah shattered. My mother, she loved Sarah more than anything in this world. She treated Sarah like her own daughter. From the day Sarah vanished, my mother was in profound shock. She collapsed right after the incident and fell into a coma. I can never forget the sight of my dad following my mother into the ambulance while I stood there like a log amidst the wreckage of our failed wedding. In the days and weeks that followed, my family faced an enormous burden. It wasn't just the emotional pain, but also the financial strain, time, and effort required to care for and treat my mother. She woke up, but her health had severely declined. The lasting effects were memory lapses and the need for constant care. My father, a man who was always so strong, had to shoulder everything, from his work to caring for my mother. My heart ached every time I looked at him. The pressure of caring for my mother, coupled with the accumulating emotional pain, pushed my family to its breaking point. There were times it felt like we wouldn't make it through, but still we had to hold on tight to each other, getting through each day. This tragedy wasn't just mine. It had devastated my entire family. Every time I looked at my mother, I saw the clear price we paid for Sarah's sudden disappearance. It's a deep, unhealing scar. The tragedy didn't stop there. Not long after that fateful wedding day, as I was still struggling to understand why Sarah had disappeared, news started to spread. The shocking information was Sarah had run off and was living with David, my rival at the company. Hearing that, I already felt like exploding, but the truth was far more horrifying. I discovered that Sarah's ghosting wasn't just about her running off with a new love, but it was part of a much larger scheme orchestrated by David. Through Sarah, he stole my confidential information, everything related to the major project I had poured my sweat and tears into. My business plans, my VIP client lists, all of it fell into his hands. The consequences were devastating. My career was destroyed. Because of the leaked information and the psychological shock, I couldn't focus on anything. I completely lost that project. Even worse, I lost the significant position I had worked so hard for over so many years. My reputation in the industry was severely damaged. Behind my back, I was seen as a fool, easily exploited. My career was severely stunted for years. I had to start from scratch, taking on small, insignificant jobs, struggling to prove myself after everything. It felt like someone had pulled the rug out from under me, not just once, but repeatedly. I had once envisioned a happy family and a stable career, but now my mother was ailing and I had nothing left. The pain wasn't just a series of immediate shocks. It burrowed deep into my bones, becoming a haunting obsession that lasted for 14 years. I've struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Every night I relive that fateful wedding day in my nightmares. I see myself standing alone at the altar, guests whispering, while Sarah vanishes like smoke, laughing happily with my sworn enemy. I discovered that Sarah's ghosting wasn't just about her running off with a new love, but it was part of a much larger scheme orchestrated by David. Through Sarah, he stole my confidential information, everything related to the major project I had poured my sweat and tears into. My business plans, my VIP client lists, all of it fell into his hands. The consequences were devastating. My career was destroyed. Because of the leaked information and the psychological shock, I couldn't focus on anything. I completely lost that project. Even worse, I lost the significant position I had worked so hard for over so many years. My reputation in the industry was severely damaged. Behind my back, I was seen as a fool, easily exploited. My career was severely stunted for years. I had to start from scratch, taking on small, insignificant jobs, struggling to prove myself after everything. It felt like someone had pulled the rug out from under me, not just once, but repeatedly. I had once envisioned a happy family and a stable career, but now My mother was ailing, and I had nothing left. The pain wasn't just a series of immediate shocks. It burrowed deep into my bones, becoming a haunting obsession that lasted for 14 years. I've struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Every night I relive that fateful wedding day in my nightmares. I see myself standing alone at the altar, guests whispering, while Sarah vanishes like smoke, laughing happily with my sworn enemy. Because of this, I lost all faith, not just in love, but in people themselves. I've had severe difficulty starting new relationships. Anytime someone gets even a little close, an invisible wall automatically goes up. I become solitary, cautious, and always on the defensive. I tell myself, it's better to be alone than to be hurt again. 14 years, folks. For 14 years, I've lived with this psychological burden. The question, why, has hung over my head every single day with no answer in sight. Every time I see my mother frail in her hospital bed, a wave of guilt washes over me, suffocating me. I ask myself, is this my fault? Was I too naive, too trusting of Sarah? I've tried dating a few times, but honestly, I just can't open up. My heart aches every time. Sarah's ghost haunts me, refusing to let go. I've never stopped thinking about her, whether it's out of hatred or some lingering bit of old love. I don't even know anymore. All I know is I've been living like a hollow shell, trapped in the past, unable to break free. The ghost of the past, along with the haunting obsession named Sarah, drifted through my life. 14 years I survived with scars that never healed. Despite everything, my career progressed quite well. Now I own a business with several dozen employees. I poured my heart into my work, and it bore sweet fruit. Then one day, out of the blue, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, almost deciding not to answer, but for some reason, a gut feeling told me to pick up. "Mark, from Company X, how can I help you?" There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then a familiar voice spoke. That voice, hoarse, weak, and with a pitiful, pleading tone. I couldn't believe my ears. Though I hadn't heard it in a very long time, that voice had haunted my nightmares for years. It was her. "Mark, it's me, Sarah." I froze. After 14 years of vanishing without a trace, she suddenly called me. Thousands of emotions came flooding back, like a tsunami crashing down. Suddenly, an intense anger surged within me, making me want to smash the phone to the floor. I was disgusted by that weak voice. Yet, strangely, in that chaotic mess, a faint flicker of hope emerged, along with a profound longing. Do you understand? This Mark, after all she had done, still felt something for her. It's insane. I tried to rein in my emotions and asked her what she wanted. "I need to see you, Mark, in person. I need to talk." I pressed her for the reason she left that day. "I'll tell you, but not over the phone. That can only be discussed face to face." Her voice was trembling. She offered no explanation, just kept pleading to meet. It was so vague, so confusing, but that mystery, that pitiful voice, it piqued my curiosity. For over 14 years, I'd lived with 1,000 questions, and now this might be my only chance to get answers. I didn't know if I was doing the most foolish thing in my life, but I agreed to meet her. On the day of our meeting, I arrived at the coffee shop a bit early. Sitting there, my heart pounded. After 14 years, I was about to face the woman who had vanished and turned my life into a nightmare. Then she arrived. A small figure, swallowed by old, worn clothes, walked into the cafe. This wasn't the Sarah I'd etched into my memory. The woman standing before me now was incredibly gaunt. She was thin, her cheeks hollowed, her eyes empty and lifeless. But what truly sent a shiver down my spine was when she sat down. Her sleeve was slightly pulled up, revealing horrific scars on her arm and even on her neck. Jagged, winding scars like cuts. I didn't know where they came from, whether she had harmed herself or someone had tormented her. She looked like someone who had just walked out of hell. I felt a surge of revulsion, but at the same time, a feeling of pity welled up within me. Sarah looked at me, then bowed her head, her voice a faint, strained whisper. She confessed that back then, her family had put immense pressure on her. Her parents had insisted she marry me, wanted her to have children to continue the family line and live a proper life according to their wishes. She said she cared for me, genuinely had feelings, but her love wasn't strong enough for her to commit her entire life to me. She felt suffocated, unable to be herself in the relationship, as if she were performing in a play. She admitted she was too weak, too cowardly to speak the truth. Instead of confronting her family or me, she chose the worst possible path. She said she just wanted to escape from everything. Hearing this, my emotions were a jumbled mess. I was still angry, still resentful, but now I saw another tragedy, a Sarah I had never known. But that wasn't all, not at all. Sarah revealed another truth, one that made me want to explode. She confessed that her elopement wasn't just due to her weakness or cowardice. Someone had assisted her, and that someone was Emily, Sarah's best friend. Emily explained that in the months leading up to the wedding, Emily had constantly filled her head with crazy ideas that she needed to live for herself, that she was being stifled by me and her own family, and that running away was the only way she could be free. Sound familiar? Right. Just like those lines from cheap romance dramas. And Emily didn't stop there. This very same Emily connected Sarah with David. And remember what I told you about David, he wasn't a simple man. Emily kept telling Sarah that David was the one who truly understood her, the one who could help her escape the life she didn't want. And with David's manipulation and sweet talk, Sarah genuinely felt the way Emily described. None of this was accidental. Sarah bowed her head, her voice trembling as if she were about to cry. She confessed that David never loved her. He merely used her. David recognized Sarah's weakness, and after approaching her, he learned she wanted to escape. He skillfully manipulated Sarah's mind, making her believe that ruining the wedding and stealing my information was a way for her to find herself, to be free. But in reality, it was just part of David's scheme for revenge, a plot to destroy me and my career. Hearing this, I just wanted to smash the glass table in front of me. So I wasn't just betrayed by the woman I loved, but also entrapped by her best friend and a sworn enemy. It felt like I was a puppet with my strings being pulled without my knowledge. This truth was far more bitter and outrageous than anything I had ever imagined. And you know what? Karma spares no one. Sarah continued, saying that David had only used her as a pawn to achieve his goals. Once his work was done, David threw Sarah out onto the street without a second thought. Hearing this, I felt a sensation, not of joy, but of bitterness. She had paid the price. Sarah continued, recounting how after David abandoned her, her parents disowned her following the wedding fiasco. She lost everything. No money, no family. She was forced to wander the streets for years, homeless and with no one to help her. To numb the pain and shame, she spiraled into addiction. Can you imagine? From a beautiful, gentle girl, she descended into the horror of substance abuse, living amidst the darkest, dirtiest corners of society. The scars on her arms and neck that I saw earlier, those were living proof of those years in hell. The peak of her tragedy was when Sarah had to spend a few years in prison. She was arrested for possession of illegal substances during her addiction. She didn't go into detail, but just by listening to her voice and looking into her eyes, I understood how much prison had destroyed her. It crushed her, turning her from a person into a mere shadow. Listening to Sarah, I felt like I was watching a horror movie. I had once hated her with every fiber of my being. But now, having heard her entire story and seeing the current Sarah, I felt a different kind of pain, a tragedy that she herself had endured, the consequence of her wrong choices and the manipulation of others. Her life truly was a living hell. Sarah sat across from me, continuing her life story after prison. She said it was the most terrible period of her life, that also when she realized she had to change. She went through a grueling addiction recovery, a process that drained her of all vitality. Then, she took on physically demanding odd jobs, doing whatever she could to make an honest living and survive. She also slowly began to reconnect with her parents. Sarah's parents had disowned her after the wedding incident, unable to accept their daughter's actions. But Sarah persevered, bit by bit, trying to mend that broken relationship. And then came the twist I never expected. Sarah admitted that she actually didn't want to contact me. She felt she had no right to face me after everything that had happened. She was too ashamed. But to reconcile with her parents, she had accepted their plea for this meeting with me today. Before I could even react, my phone vibrated. It was her parents calling me. They, who had once been so heartbroken and ashamed of their daughter, were now desperate enough to beg me. They pleaded, "Mark, please help Sarah." They said she had no one left, that they no longer had the strength to help her, that I was the only person Sarah trusted, the only one who could save her from complete ruin. Can you imagine? I, the one they had destroyed, was now being begged by her very own parents for help? I looked at Sarah sitting across from me, her face cast down, still that same resigned posture. She didn't say a word. My heart felt torn in two. On one side was the hatred and pain Sarah had inflicted on me and my mother. On the other, the image of her frail parents and their desperate plea. The moral pressure weighed heavily on me. I kept looking at my mother's condition, then thought of Sarah's parents' desperate call. What should I do?
But on the other side, compassion swelled within me. I saw the Sarah of yesterday, the gentle girl I once loved more than life itself. I looked at the scars on her body, thinking of the hellish years she had endured. And then that question haunted me. Would I be a monster if I just left her to die on the streets? After everything, after all the terrible things she did, should I reach out? I wondered, am I becoming a devil like David? That feeling of being torn was insane. I also remembered how I used to impose my will on Sarah. Was some of the fault mine? Was it because I was too controlling, not giving her a voice, that she felt she had to choose such an extreme path? These thoughts swirled in my mind, making it impossible to make a decision. The meeting with Sarah continued, consumed by my internal struggle. Finally, I had to make a decision, one I knew would change everything. I looked at Sarah, at the broken person sitting across from me. I thought deeply about my mother, about everything I had endured, and I couldn't allow myself to accept her back. Absolutely not. I had to protect myself. That boundary couldn't be crossed. But I'm still human. Seeing her in that state, I couldn't completely ignore her. I took out some money, enough for her to live comfortably for a while. I handed it to her and said, "This is all I can do. You need to find professional help and put in a lot of effort, Sarah. Tell your parents I'm truly sorry." Sarah looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Though it wasn't what she expected, my rejection still made her sob, her voice choked with emotion. "So, is this really the end for us? After everything, are you abandoning me?" I looked at her. My face must have been calm, but inside I was burning. I spoke, each word deliberate, like carving into stone. "Yes, it's all over. You chose your path, Sarah. It's time for me to choose mine. The past 14 years have been hell for both of us. Now it's time to let go." She reached out her hand and I took it, a cold, tormented handshake. It was a chaotic mess of emotions. Then Sarah stood up, turned, and walked away. Her figure slowly disappeared into the night, and I knew that was the last time I would ever see her. The chapter of Sarah in my life had officially closed. A bitter end, but at least I had found some semblance of peace. After that day with Sarah, I felt an enormous weight lifted from my shoulders. It felt like I'd been freed from an invisible chain that had bound me for 14 years. I finally got what people call closure, the peace I'd been searching for all this time. At last, I had my answers, no matter how bitter. Sarah's tragedy, the way she paid her price, still lingered with me. It made me look inward, reflect on everything that had happened, and want to turn that pain into something positive. I started getting more involved in charity work and social events, places where I could help those less fortunate. I joined support groups where people shared their stories. I realized I wasn't the only one suffering. I also dedicated more time to my family, especially my mother. I wanted to make it up to her, to care for her well. Seeing her slowly, gradually recover was a huge comfort to me. I felt more responsible and also found more peace doing these things. Then one day,
Fate arranged another encounter. I coincidentally ran into David at a charity event. He no longer had his arrogant, polished demeanor. He looked somewhat down on his luck, but his expression seemed calmer. When he saw me, he simply nodded and tried to walk past me, as if I were invisible. But I wouldn't allow it. I looked him straight in the eye, my emotions a jumbled mess of anger, disdain, and even a touch of grim satisfaction. I didn't say much. I didn't need his apology, I didn't need his excuses. I just wanted him to know that I had seen him and I knew he wasn't doing much better than I was. Then I turned and walked away. I felt as if another burden had been lifted. It wasn't revenge, it was a declaration that I had closed a dark chapter in my life. I thought my life would forever be just scars and work, but then at one of the very community fundraising events I was involved in, my life took an unexpected turn. I met Lisa. When I saw her for the first time, I was a little startled. Lisa had dark hair, a kind smile, and a gentle demeanor. There was something about her that reminded me of Sarah from back then, something very familiar. Memories of the past rushed back, but only for a fleeting moment. Because the more I talked to Lisa, the more I realized she was worlds apart from Sarah. Lisa possessed an incredibly resilient spirit. She didn't complain or blame others. She had faced many difficulties in life, but the way she confronted them was incredibly strong and determined. She was hardworking and resilient, not weak or resigned like Sarah. Lisa was a woman who truly knew what she wanted and worked hard to achieve it. We slowly started talking more. I told her my story, the pain, the scars. I was so careful, believe me, because I was scared. But Lisa wasn't judgmental. She listened to me genuinely, with an uncanny understanding. I felt an inner strength in Lisa that I had never seen in anyone else, not even Sarah. She didn't pressure me. She was simply there, listening and respecting my feelings. Our relationship gently grew from there. It wasn't at the point of being a couple or anything grand like that yet, but it was a new beginning, a glimmer of hope I never thought I'd find. Lisa showed me that healing is real and that after everything I'd been through, I still deserved love and happiness. There are strong, sincere women out there who are truly worth opening up to and trusting. And that's my story, everyone. My life, to be honest, has never been perfect. The scars from the past are still there. Sometimes I still feel a pang of pain remembering what happened. The haunting memories of Sarah, of David, of my mother are still a part of me. But now I've found something far more important: peace. I've found my own closure. I know facing the past isn't easy. It can even be excruciating. But only when you dare to confront it can you truly let go. I want to tell you, those of you listening to this story, no matter how much life beats you down, no matter how cruelly you're betrayed, remember one thing: protect yourself first, set boundaries, and don't hesitate to cut out what hurts you. Never think you have to sacrifice your happiness to please others. And most importantly, always believe in a better future. There will be times you think you can't get through it. There will be times you feel alone and lost. But trust me, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. As long as you persevere, as long as you don't give up, you will find it. Thank you for listening to today's story from the Guilty Notes channel. If this story resonated with you, please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional real-life stories and valuable lessons. See you in the next video.